Hi, Abraham. First of all, I want to thank you very, very much for your teachings. I've been exposed to them for 2 years, and I'm just blown away by the brilliance and the insight that you have, and thank you for sharing that with me. I'm a businessman. I run a biofuel business, and one thing that I've noticed over the last maybe 10 years is that there seems to be like a glass ceiling. The business is new, and we move fuel all over North America. And one thing that I notice is that when we do something new and great, it's like we lose something. And so there seems to be this balance that I can never push through. When something gets lost in the business, I feel fear, I feel disappointment. I go through the whole range of negative emotions. And
for example, losing something.
Losing a deal that may be bringing revenue into the company. It makes me feel that maybe I can't support my employees. Maybe eventually I would lose the company, which is kind of crazy since I've run it for 16 years. And yet I still get those thoughts.
Well, no one likes to see evidence of things going opposite of the way you want them to go. In other words, you will never be able to look at something that you don't want and feel positive emotion. But the tendency is to then believe that, well, if I can't look at something that I don't want without feeling negative emotion, then somehow I have to control the conditions so that there aren't any things that I don't want to look at. And we say, or you could just not look at it. You say, oh, that's novel. Just not look at it, and I would feel better if I just don't look at it. We say, yes, you would feel better if you just don't look at what's opposite of what you want. And then people say, well, shouldn't I face reality? Don't I have some responsibility to look at what I want as well at what I don't want? And we say, well, it is the synthesizing process that helps you to determine what you want. But once you've given birth to your idea of what you want, the source energy part of you gives its undivided attention toward what is wanted and never turns and looks at what is not wanted. So it's logical that when you do turn and look at the opposite of what you want, that you would feel negative emotion. That's your guidance saying, look over here instead. Let's talk about something specific. Lay your question out again, too, if you would.
It seems to me that there's a balance in the business, a ceiling that I can't push through. It's when something's gained, something's lost. I mean, the business does well. I do well. I'm trying to cultivate abundance in every aspect of my life, but since I'm a businessman, most of what I think about gets manifested in the business world. I'd like to know what I'm doing to make it seem in my life as if when I'm about to achieve something, it may fall apart. We'll be moving biofuel in New York State, a beautiful deal, and all of a sudden something will happen and it will stop, and then something amazing will happen and something new will grow up. But I want to build something amazing. I want to build something fantastic in an industry that's growing, and I can't do that without cultivating the abundance, meaning financial abundance, in the business, so I can hire the brilliant people so that I can build something truly amazing. And I feel a bit stuck.
As we listen to you, and as we ask you to tell the story again and again, and each time you tell it, you talk optimistically and pessimistically. You talk about things going well and you talk about things not going well. And we want you to begin to notice that there is an absolute correlation between the way you see it and the way it unfolds. And so we could pronounce to you, and you would know it without our pronouncement, that you are more optimistic than you are pessimistic, and that you are more expecting it to go well than you're expecting it not to go well, and that's the reason it's going that way. But it feels to you that it could tip either way, and the reason that it could tip either way is because you have quite a few active thoughts of what you want, and you have quite a few active thoughts of what you don't want. And we know it's the argument that we get from almost all of our human friends who say, but Abraham, I'm here facing the reality of my life experience, and it's hard not to have knee-jerk responses to reality. And we say, we know it's hard not to have knee-jerk knee-jerk responses. Our message, the one that we've been speaking all day here today and beyond, is about letting your knee-jerk responses just start leaning in a slightly more positive way than a slightly negative way. In other words, you cannot single-handedly change the whole industry relative to fuel. There are a lot of people who have much to gain by keeping things the way they are, but there has never been a time on this planet ever where the energy was stronger in asking for alternative resources. Now, if you were to say, well, are 90% of them on my side? We would say no. If you say, well, are at least half of them pulling in this direction? We say, it might be that. It doesn't matter how many there are. All of the people around the world that are becoming aware of the discomfort of their expectation and need for all of that foreign oil, all of that is causing desire that is shooting out of them like rockets, that is blending over there in vibrational escrow with what you've got going on. In other words, this is a very good time to be in the business that you are in. And so what we're wanting you to begin acknowledging is that if there was ever a time for your expectation to begin paying off, now is that time. Humans have this thing going on, and sometimes you describe it as waiting for the other shoe to drop. And it goes something like, do I dare expect something truly wonderful to happen for me? Do I dare be so bold as to coax myself up into powerful expectations when my past experience has shown me that another shoe is going to drop and that I'm going to be disappointed? And we say, it's the whole point of everything that we teach. We so want you to understand that the things that actualize around you, in terms of people, in terms of employees, in terms of sales, in terms of economics, in terms of the personal economics of your business, or even the greater economics of your nation or the global economy. All of those things are revolving around the direction of your thought and only the direction of your thought. So when you said, I have a very good business, which was really a downstream statement, and then you said something like, and I have a lot of responsibility to the people who are working with me, which was a sort of upstream statement. You could tell by the way it felt. We know you're hearing it already, but what we want you to leave here determined about is that we don't want a condition to break loose and then to have a feeling of relief in response to it. We don't want something to go wrong and then you have a feeling of sadness or fear in response to it. We want you to decide that you are going to direct the thoughts in order to induce the feeling response. In other words, you are the maker of the feeling of relief. You're no longer asking for the economy to be the maker of the feeling of relief, or somebody to buy your product and that to be the maker of your feeling of relief. You're going to start counting on something that you can count on, which is your ability to direct yourself slightly downstream instead of slightly upstream. You're going to start pointing yourself deliberately downstream in order to induce relief, because someone who can irrationally induce relief will always have outrageous success.
Thank you. Thank you.
We want you to be irrational in your willingness to produce personal relief in your belly. And as you do that, that means you will consistently be releasing resistance, which means all that time that you've been living all that stuff, you're not the only one that has put this magnificent business out there in your vibrational future. Billions of people around the planet have put this magnificent business out there in the future of so many of you, you see. Don't use your rationale to line up with it. Use the power of your ability to direct your thought. You line up with your dreams about this, and the universe will find a way to carve out a niche for you. And anybody standing back and watching you will say, it is amazing what's going on with you. This doesn't happen to anyone. And we say, happens to everyone who is irrationally able to induce their own relief. We have enjoyed this interaction immensely. It is great fun to come together with those like you who are coming to understand that you are creative geniuses in physical bodies. We know that we have been repetitive here today, and in many cases it has seemed a little bit slow going in the sense that we have been talking about vibrations and we've been talking about downstream. But we are wanting you to understand that life is not supposed to be a struggle. It is supposed to be an opportunity for expansion. And when you allow yourself to move in the direction of the part of you that is already expanded, then it is a life-giving feeling of vitality that pours through you. You didn't come into these physical bodies to muck around and merely survive. You came forth with the intention of really being stimulated to personal things that really get your juices flowing. And what we notice among so many humans is that while your juices do occasionally get flowing, you don't consistently enough hold yourself in the direction of those flowing juices to really begin to build up the momentum for the passion for life in the way that you intended. It's only the little ones who are still doing that for the most part. You are a group of beings who can be different. You can make the decision to reach for the best feeling thought that you can find, or to find the thought that feels a little better, and you can begin to build momentum. The only thing that keeps you from building momentum toward this fast-moving energy stream that is already in motion for you is that you keep saying, well, maybe or maybe not, well, maybe or maybe not. It's the contradictory thought that keeps sort of short-circuiting you and slowing down your momentum. And it isn't very much fun. Jerry tells the story of wanting to help someone get their car started and pushing them from behind. And even though there was a sort of level ground and he should have been able to help them get it going, in their confusion about what was going on, he'd push for a little bit and he'd push for a little bit and he'd say, now at the perfect moment, let up on the clutch and off you'll get going. But they would put their foot on the brake or they would clutch at the wrong moment. And so it was just a stop and start sort of experience for them and for him. If you're wanting to live your life in the way you intended as you came forth into this physical body, we want you to begin to ask for the momentum of your life that you deserve. Because we want you to know that from our point of view, the momentum is so superb. And if it weren't for those contradictory thoughts that you keep finding and embracing and then pushing against, you would not stop your momentum and it would get going. And then those things that are the inevitable unfolding of the things that you would want, like your business expansion or like your lover coming or like your orgasm that you are looking forward to or like your Rolls Royce. As you are allowing the momentum of this energy to carry you and you are reaching for the best feeling thought that you can find, you're going to begin to discover that the whole reason that you wanted the Rolls Royce was for the reason to have this ride of momentum to begin with. We don't know of anything that any of you want, whether it's a material object or a state of being or a relationship or a condition. There is nothing that any of you want for any other reason than that you believe that in the having of it, you would feel better. You didn't come forth just to feel a little better. You came forth as vivacious, eager, worthy-feeling beings who look forward to the opportunity of being exposed to life experiences so that new ideas could emerge from you. And you so loved the feeling of the new idea emerging because you knew that when the new idea emerged as a result of your life experience, that the resources that create worlds would then go to work on preparing the inevitable future for the culmination of that which you had set into motion. And as creative geniuses, you so loved that feeling of creation that you said, bring on the contrast, because the contrast will give birth to the new idea. Be easy about all of this. Be playful about it. Don't work so hard. And say to yourself on a pretty regular basis, I am where I am, and where I am is just fine. And if you will make an effort to make peace with where you are, there is nothing that we have ever seen in human experience that is more conducive to the beginning and the maintaining of momentum than making peace with where you are. There is great love here for you. And as always, we remain eternally and joyfully incomplete.